Day 1. As I was driving home from work, my GPS redirected me down an unfamiliar road due to a traffic jam caused by an accident on my usual route. I was in a hurry to get home to relieve the babysitter, who was watching my 5-year-old daughter Mia while my wife was away on a business trip. As I drove, I noticed a yard sale sign at the side of the road that caught my attention. I couldn't resist the urge to check it out, so I pulled over to take a look. The yard sale had a variety of items, including antique furniture and old-fashioned toys. As I browsed through the sale items, a vintage doll in the corner caught my eye. Its intricate design and lifelike features were impressive, and I knew Mia would love it. Without hesitation, I bought the doll and headed home. When I arrived home, the babysitter greeted me with a smile of relief, happy to see me finally home. Mia, who was eagerly awaiting my return, rushed out to greet me with open arms. "Daddy," she exclaimed as she hugged me tightly. After a few moments of catching up with the babysitter, I presented Mia with the vintage doll. Her eyes lit up with delight as she hugged the doll close to her chest. "Thank you, Daddy," she exclaimed with a huge smile on her face. As the evening progressed, I began to feel a strange sense of unease. There was an eerie atmosphere that seemed to permeate the house, and I couldn't shake the feeling that something was off. Mia, on the other hand, was completely absorbed in playing with her new doll. As the night approached, I put Mia to bed, read her a bedtime story, and tucked her in. Just as I was about to leave the room, I heard her talking to someone. At first, I assumed she was just talking to herself or perhaps had an imaginary friend, but then I heard giggles and laughter coming from the room. I slowly approached the door and listened. "Mia, who are you talking to?" I asked as I opened the door. "I was talking to Sophie," Mia exclaimed excitedly, pointing to the vintage doll. "Sophie?" I didn't remember Mia mentioning that name before. But then again, she was a creative child who often made up imaginary friends. I shrugged it off, told Mia to get some sleep, and headed to bed myself. However, as the night went on, things began to take a strange turn. I heard strange noises coming from Mia's room, like footsteps and whispers. I got out of bed and went to investigate, but as I approached the door, the noises stopped. When I opened the door, Mia was fast asleep, and the doll was sitting on a chair at the far end of the room, looking directly at me. It was as if the doll was watching my every move, waiting for me to leave the room. I couldn't shake the feeling that something was off. The atmosphere in the house was unnerving, and the doll's presence seemed to be growing stronger with every passing moment. I couldn't help but wonder what the next few days would bring, and whether this eerie feeling would ever go away. Day 2. As I enter my home after a long and tiring day at the office, I feel the weight of the world on my shoulders. I know I have no choice but to bring my work home with me, as I need to relieve my babysitter who is waiting for me to come home. As soon as I step into my house, I see the babysitter leaving, giving me a quick smile before hurrying out the door. I go to the kitchen and start preparing dinner for myself and my daughter Mia. After dinner, I let Mia play by herself as I need to finish some work. As I sit down at my desk, I can't help but feel overwhelmed with the amount of work I have to do. The sound of my daughter's running footsteps in the house only adds to my stress. I get up to check on her, and find her searching every corner of the living room. "What are you doing, Mia?" I ask her, trying to sound patient. "I am playing hide and seek with Sophie," she replies, her face beaming with excitement. I am confused. "Sophie? Who is she?" I ask, hoping for an answer that makes sense. "She's my new friend. She's very smart. She found me very fast when I was hiding just now. Now it's her turn to hide and I can't find her," Mia says, her voice tinged with disappointment. I offer to help her find Sophie, hoping to end the game quickly. As we search the living room and every nook and cranny, we can't seem to find the doll. Then, I hear something drop in the storeroom. As I open the door, I am shocked to see the doll sitting on top of the highest rack, looking down at us. There is no way Mia could have put the doll up there. My heart skips a beat as I think of the possibility that someone else might be in the house with us. I call the babysitter to ask if she played a prank on Mia, but she does not answer. I try to brush it off, thinking that it must have been a prank, but the creepy feeling lingers. I give the doll back to Mia and return to my work. As the night wears on, I hear the same giggling and laughter coming from Mia's room. I go to check on her, and to my relief, find that she has already fallen asleep. But once again, the doll is sitting on the chair in the corner of the room, staring at me with its lifeless eyes. I try to dismiss the feeling of unease and convince myself that I must be overworked and hearing things. But as I lay in bed, I can't shake off the feeling that something isn't right. Day 3. As I step into my home, I am already feeling drained from a long day at work. The thought of having to bring work home again is a daunting one, but I had no choice since I needed to relieve the babysitter. As soon as she left, I ordered takeout for dinner, hoping for a bit of a break from cooking. Mia, my daughter, is playing with her doll as I enter my study room to tackle my work. The room is quiet, except for the sound of papers rustling and the occasional tapping of the keyboard. Time slips away quickly, and before I know it, it's already past midnight. Suddenly, I hear a loud scream coming from Mia's room, jolting me out of my work-induced trance. "Daddy, help!" Mia's voice is shaking and filled with fear. I spring up from my chair, ready to rush to her aid, but instead, I step on something sharp on the floor. It's a thumbtack, and the pain is excruciating. I can feel the blood flowing out from the 3 holes in the sole of my feet. I manage to pull them out one by one, trying to ignore the pain as best as I can. As I limp towards Mia's room, my mind is racing. Who left the thumbtacks on the floor? Was it me, or did Mia knock them over earlier? I don't have time to ponder, as I hear Mia's voice again. "Daddy, please don't do this to me." The fear in her voice sends chills down my spine. I rush into her room, but what I see leaves me confused and scared. Mia is sound asleep on her bed, her breathing calm and steady. The room is silent, except for the sound of my heavy breathing and the blood dripping from my feet. And then I see it, the doll, perched on the corner of the bed, staring at me with an unsettling gaze. I try to shake off the feeling of dread and patch up my wounds. As I finish my work and crawl into bed, my mind is still reeling with questions. Did I really hear Mia scream, or was it my imagination? And who left the thumbtacks on the floor? As I drift off to sleep, I wonder if I'll be able to wear shoes the next day. Day 4. Finally, the day was over and I could leave the office without a pile of work to bring home. It was a huge relief to know that I could spend some quality time with my daughter Mia tonight. As I arrived home, the babysitter left in a hurry, giving off an uneasy and frightened vibe. I couldn't help but wonder what had happened, but I didn't pursue it and decided to focus on spending time with Mia. I cooked a delicious meal for the 2 of us, but Mia insisted on setting up a place for her new doll, Sophie. I couldn't say no to her adorable requests, so I set the table for 3. After dinner, Mia started telling me about Sophie, who was apparently also 5 years old and had a difficult upbringing. I found it strange that Mia had such vivid details about her imaginary friend. Once we finished eating, Mia went to play with Sophie while I cleaned up. Later, while I was taking a bath, I heard the sound of wind blowing into the house. The curtains rustled loudly, and I realized that someone must have opened the balcony sliding door. To my horror, I saw Mia standing on the edge of the balcony, ready to jump. Without hesitation, I dashed over and grabbed her by the waist, pulling her back to safety. I was shocked and filled with anguish as I asked her why she would do such a dangerous thing. Mia was crying and murmuring in fear, "But Dad, Sophie said I could fly." I hugged her tightly, trying to comfort her as I slowly rocked her to sleep. With anger boiling inside me, I went back out to the balcony and saw the doll sitting on the chair, as if nothing had happened. I decided to lock Sophie out of the house that night, not wanting her anywhere near my daughter again. Day 5. I wake up to the sound of my daughter Mia's laughter in the morning. It's unusually early for her to be up and about, and I make my way to her room. As I approach, I can hear the sound of her jumping on the bed, despite me telling her not to do so before. But what catches me off guard is the sound of another set of laughter and giggling, which doesn't belong to Mia. As I push open the door, Mia stops jumping and looks at me, caught doing something she shouldn't be. But the most shocking thing is that the doll is hovering in midair and suddenly drops to the bed when I enter the room. I can't handle it anymore. What's with this doll? My mind races with all kinds of thoughts, and I decide to throw it away without telling Mia. I drive to a nearby dumpster and discard the doll before heading to work. But when I return home in the evening, I'm shocked to see Mia holding the same doll in her hand. I confront the babysitter, but she denies having anything to do with it. The doll has been with Mia since the afternoon. When I ask the babysitter why she wants to quit, she refuses to tell me the reason. Despite my unease, Mia insists on setting another place for Sophie at the dinner table, and I have no choice but to oblige. After dinner, I decide to take a bath to relax and rejuvenate myself after a long day at work. As I sink into the bathtub, I begin to drift off to sleep, but suddenly, I'm pulled under the water surface. I struggle to fight back, but I have no strength left in me. Through the waving water, I can see the doll's face staring back at me, its smile almost taunting. I start to choke and gag on the water, helpless to escape. Just as I feel like I'm about to pass out, the doll disappears, and I'm able to pull myself out of the water, gasping for air. Enraged and terrified, I know I can't have this doll in my house and around my daughter anymore. I search for it everywhere but can't find it until Mia shouts, "I got you." I rush over to the room and witness Mia pulling the doll out from under the bed. And I rush in to take the doll from her. Determined to rid ourselves of this cursed doll, I drive to the nearest church and explain everything to the pastor. He tells me that an evil spirit resides in the doll, and we must perform an exorcism to get rid of it. Finally, I leave the doll with the pastor and return home to Mia. The next day, I buy a new doll for Mia from the department store. I vow never to buy any vintage or old dolls from yard sales again, and I shudder to think of what might have happened if we had kept that cursed doll any longer.